I'm your host, Charise Beckett, and
I am your host, Mark Thompson.
how are you?
If you focus on what you did in the past, then
To lead, transform, and shine.
this is a great collaboration. Career Transformation Academy and Queens Behind the Scenes. Mark Thompson, Charise Beckett, about to tear it up.
Welcome to Corporately Speaking, where we say the quiet parts out loud. I'm Charise Beckett.
And I am Mark Thompson. And today we're inviting you to break the mold with us.
We are talking about leadership, but not the version we were all taught to admire. Not that. Not the prototype in the tailored suit and sitting on at the head of the boardroom table. That's not it.
Right. And what we're talking about is leadership. I mean, what it actually looks like today in an evolving world, especially for women and for underrepresented professionals, LGBTQ plus folks, and anyone who has ever felt like they had to shrink to fit.
Or feel othered. Here's
Yeah.
what's coming up: the myth of the traditional leader. Some real talk about what drives success today. A powerful story or two, and framework you can actually use to lead with authenticity and assimilation.
Right. So we'll start into what we say is what the prototype problem. So let's name the prototype. So historically, the default leader has looked like the white male, the Ivy League educated, extroverted, assertive, even aggressive. I think we've all experienced that.
Yeah. And let's be honest, the proximity to that mold is often what gets rewarded in corporate spaces. We've seen it firsthand, and where leaders start performing a version of power that was never meant for them.
Right. And just a few data points here just to talk about this. As we go in this, we want people to have this framework. Like as of 2024, only 8.8% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. And get this, only five, not even percentage, just only 5 are Black men and 0 are Black women.
Yeah, it's only 5. I mean, that is...
Yeah.
When you had to say and repeat it, you was like, only 5,
Yeah.
not 500,
Only 5.
not 5, just 5, period.
Right. And let's repeat, there are CEO women, but Fortune 500 companies only, just 5 and no Black women. That's yeah, non-existent.
Well, let that sink in, and now let me bring it home. There was a time I was praised for being poised, but penalized for being too emotional. I've had to navigate, the unspoken rules that tell us how to be in the room while trying not to lose myself in the process. And I want to add this, Mark. That's the thing is we're always so busy trying to fit at that table. We're always trying to fit this mold to be at that table when that's not what leadership really looks like in our current state.
Right. And I've seen that happen time and time again over the years in my life and other people and watching other leaders struggle with the same thing. And it's just time we retire this idea that power only looks one way. And this is where we're going to make those changes. So as we're looking at refining the real leadership, so what does the effective leadership look like in 2025? You can go first or I can go first, but I always bow down to the SVP.
Empathy, adaptability, psychological safety, curiosity, strategic listening, vulnerability. Those aren't just soft skills. They are leadership superpowers. You can build so much buy-in for the people that work, your colleagues that work with you. You can build buy-in on whatever project that you want if you are adaptable and you are empathetic and you are curious and you are a strategic listener and you are vulnerable with your team. And when I say vulnerable, let me clarify, because everybody thinks vulnerable means telling your staff your business. It does not mean that. It does not mean that. I had a boss one time. She said that she's authentic, and she came to work and basically sat me and my team down and was like, so I'm getting a divorce, and then started telling us about her parenting classes. And I was
remember you talked about that.
what is happening here?
Right.
that's not vulnerable. That's just sharing too much. Okay.
Right. And so transparency is key, but your personal transparency, leave that at home. Talk to your friends about that. And I've heard people, I had a story from one of my friends. She was like, her boss was mad at her because she wouldn't connect with her on personal vulnerability. She was going through so much stuff, and she's like, why don't you connect? And she was like, I'm here to work. And that made her manager upset because she didn't have a friend to talk to. She wanted a friend, which was weird. Now you want to be outside the box leadership like that, that's on you. But you do create a real weird dynamic between you and your employees now, because you're telling them, I need you to connect with me in order for me to lead you. Now you put me in a situation. I got to leave this company.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't want to have to connect with you. I don't want to have to connect with you. Like,
Right.
I mean, if it's natural and organic, yes. But if it's like forced, I don't like forced. I always say this. I don't like forced connections. I tell my husband and I are big on that. Like, there have been times where my husband is like, it will say something like, what did he say with me and the leadership? Oh my God, I got to think of it. You go though.
Right.
Talk about empathy.
Well, there it is. I mean, empathy is important. I think that's the biggest piece, because people want you to know that they can care. And Harvard's Business Review named empathy the single most important leadership competency. That's not fluff. That's a fact. And I wholeheartedly believe that. I think, and I'm gonna add this. This is my own opinion, but if you're a leader, you have kids, you pretty much can understand and see things and feelings, because the behavior sometimes of these adults that are under you kind of model some of the same behaviors as your kid. Hey, if I don't know, if you ask not, you have not. If you don't ask not, like, you have those employees, you have the ones who work hard, you have your I call them your troubled childs. You have to manage everybody in certain ways. So as an empathetic leader, you can mirror and match all of your employees. So yeah.
What I was going to tell you is the thing about my husband with the connection. That's what he said about forced connections. He calls them whenever I have a friend who has a husband. I'm like, oh, you should meet so. He's like,
yeah,
I don't want no play date for men.
Kudos to him. Thank you for standing up for all men out here. Don't match make me up. We're in the room. You like baseball? I like baseball. You watch, who your team? That's what it's like. Just
is that what it's like for real? And then women just be yap. We don't even miss a beat.
It's like you done put us in the room and we're sitting there. What's up? You want a beer? Yeah.
Well, let's make this personal. Think of the best leader you've had. What made them stand out to you? I bet it wasn't how well they played office politics, right? It was how they made you feel and how they showed up.
Yeah. Man, I've had a few leaders, and I think the best leaders I had were challengers. They challenged me to do better, and that actually gave me the skill set I had. So, I didn't know if you want me to answer that, or you want me to think about that, because you looking.
Well, no. I just like what is how does it? Because I've had many leaders, and so they have showed up very differently for me. And it also matters what stage of your career you're in, what you need in a leader. Like, what I need in a leader now is not what I needed in a leader 20 years ago.
Exactly.
Obviously. And I think that's what happens though in these spaces that weren't meant for us. A lot of time people can see us, especially Black people, as being their somebody that they can mentor, right? Mm-hmm. But when it comes to it's have you ever heard the pet to threat theory? It's called pet to threat, and I've got to find the person who made the pet because I want to give her absolute credit. But it's the pet to threat origins. Hold on, let me see. And it's the pet to threat phenomenon refers to a shift in perception where individuals, particularly Black women, are initially seen as likable novices or pets by their supervisors. However, as they grow in their roles, they demonstrate competence and exert influence. They can be perceived as a threat. That's pet to threat. And it was, hold on, I want to see who its origins. There's one main person, Dr. Keisha Thomas in 2013. she described the threat. So the pet to threat, theory. So the term Dr. Keisha Thomas penned to capture this very tragic and common occurrence for Black women and women of color is the pet to threat.
That's good. Like, I've seen a lot of women of color deal with that, and I've managed them and tried not to be anything like that at all, because I see them as an asset to the company. So I would say, as a leadership space, is, does your leader listen? Are they actually receiving what you tell them to actually help you out, to forward you, get you into a right place? Do they lead with care? We talk about that a lot. I try to lead with care because as a leader, I don't care about you being at this company for 30 years. I care about you getting what you need out of this company so you can thrive. So you're not going to be here forever. And so I am trying to lift and motivate you to be the best version of yourself. That leadership is not seen all the time, because some people are like, here's the bottom line. I got goals. I'm trying to be VP in 2 years. Forget you, get the numbers, and then peace out. You'll figure it out later. Whereas I'm actually focused on my employees, because the harder they work, how I nurture them, how I can actually get the leadership to actually help mold them, puts us in position so that way we can manage this team successfully. So this is the growth process, I think, that I've seen in a lot of leaders. I've modeled that. I'm going to tell you the best thing to help make me a better leader, and I'm only talking about myself because I'm probably the best leader I know, was coaching Little League football. I did it for 7 years. Oh, yeah. I did Pop Warner, Little League football, and dealing with kids, but also dealing with parents. It's almost like dealing with a tier 1 and tier 2. And then you have coaches. So now I'm really managing almost 50 people at one time, trying to build a structure in an organization, be successful, set goals, manage expectations. All of this happening at the same time, and everybody wants. And you have to realize, how can I not kill myself every day, stress myself out, and put things in place? And that took time, but I literally, I lost 5 games in 7 years. At that point, puts it in perspective for you. We were
5 games in 7 years.
Yeah, 5 well-oiled built machine, and we were tough. So, yeah.
Wow.
Take that into the world of corporate America, and then now here you have it. We're there.
Well, it's funny because let me be completely real. I've been in rooms where my presence has not been tolerated, but my voice wasn't fully heard. Or I say rooms where I believe I have just been tolerated, right? Where my presence was tolerated, but my voice wasn't fully heard unless I softened it or polished it or filtered it through someone else. And I just saw a clip the other day of a very successful Black woman who said, I need to make myself small for him. And I couldn't believe she was saying that, but she was saying it in a way. She was saying it in a way that it was a very great concept that she had, but I would never say shrink yourself. So what she meant was, sometimes you have to mirror the energy of the person that you're talking to. Sometimes if you're real big and you're talking to somebody that's like, hey, that bigness is going to, it seems like a different dynamic in the conversation. That doesn't mean you shrink yourself so small. That means you mirror who you are talking to so that you can have influence and so you can accomplish those things that you want to accomplish.
Yeah, you can definitely scare people. And again, here's what I said earlier. Little League taught me that. I don't talk to kids like, you get on the knee. They're little kids. So when I get on the knee and we're eye to eye, they respect you more. And I learned that with adults the same way. You're like, where are you so I can meet you there? And then let's connect where you need to receive me better as a leader.
When I think about the best leaders I've worked with, they did not micromanage. They empowered. They didn't bark orders. They built bridges. And I will say that is so, like where you said the empathy part, the best leaders don't micromanage. They empower you to do. They don't need, and I remember someone said, I was like, why do you, they were like, I think that's what good leaders do. And I'm like, so first of all, you're in your 30s. Ain't nobody said that in the last 30 years. So who told you that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Who told you that? So I find that very interesting.
Yeah. And one of my favorite reflections is leadership that nurtures is stronger than leadership that manages. And
you said you're a nurturing leader.
I'm a nurturing leader, and this is one of those things that, I mean, when have you ever seen that in a new hire manager orientation? It's not taught. You got it, you don't, or you learn it behaviors from other managers, and that's probably the key pieces that actually have. You see great leaders versus just status quo. I'm just here to get this
Mhm.
paycheck leaders.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's invite listeners to reflect. Who's the best leader you've worked with, and what
Hmm.
is one trait that made them stand out? I can answer as well. I will answer. I think one of my best leaders, I had two really good ones, Sandra Martinez and I had Danny
Hmm.
Hill. Out of all my bosses, those two have been the most critical in my life. Sandra showed me the world. I was a global HR director. I wasn't a baby HR person, but I was definitely
Hmm.
a little bit more green than I am now. That was like 10 years
Right.
ago. And
That make
and
me feel small.
I
I'm like, I'm a global HR director.
was I was me.
It was 10 years ago. That was small potatoes.
But it was a great company. Well, it was a great experience because I got to travel
Hmm.
everywhere in the world. And
Right.
then when I offboarded there and I went to Planned Parenthood and I was with my old boss there, I mean, she just was top tier. Top
Hmm.
tier. She was empathetic. And I think maybe top tier. We had some of the same lived experiences, but she was top tier. Top tier.
Right. I got so many different traits of folks, but I would honestly, as a man, and I think for a lot of people of color, it's when you keep your word. And when you do something that you say, like, you're going to help us get new jobs, when you're going to help us elevate to the next level, and you keep that word, you create so much loyalty and so much dedication to the job. Like I when I left when I left Cisco, I had, a farewell type gathering. And I guess we've already rolled into these stories or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But yeah.
Storytelling. Yes. So yes. Mark, go ahead with your
Yeah.
story.
So I had a gathering as I was leaving, and the people were just celebrating, hey, wishing you well. And everybody there was about six, it was about 7 or 8 people there. And it hit me like every last person here, I got them a new job, a promotion, or something. And then I started looking back, and it was like 15 to 20 people, which is really the start how I thinking about Career Transformation Academy. I'm naturally elevating people to get to where they want to go. I mean, some of them are my mentors, some of the people I just met. But if you express to me this is where you want to go, then let's create the blueprint for it. It's not just the cookie cutter developmental plan that the company has. There's more work that you had to do on the outside to put you in position to be seen as the absolute choice. How do you do that? And this is something that was, for me, I thought that was amazing. So just a good segue to looking at the, trailblazers. So I'm talking about these stories, but let's look at some real world trailblazers who have redefined what leadership looks like.
Yes. So Jacinda Ardern, she was the prime minister for New Zealand. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
She was a prime minister. She was pregnant. She had a baby. She led her country with compassion during the pandemic. I mean, that was leadership. And guess what? They had some of the lowest numbers of COVID. She chose to
Mm,
step down when the job no longer aligned with her values. She said, that's it. That's integrity in action. When it no
yeah.
longer aligned with her, she was like, I'm going to step on down. I'm going to step on down.
Uh, and let's talk about Rosalind Brewer, the former CEO of Walgreens. Wow, didn't know that. Anyway, she says she's one of the few Black women to ever lead a Fortune 500 companies. I'm pretty sure they wore her out, but has consistently spoken out about inclusion, purpose, and showing up as your whole self. I'm pretty sure Walgreens was a great company to work for during that time, but I wonder what more details will be showing up about her and what she did.
Right. Well, they probably wore her out, like you said. And I mean, the exhaustion is real. The exhaustion is real.
Yeah.
And then there's Melody Hobson, president of Ariel Investments. She owns her power. She talks about being unapologetically direct, but never detached from the people she leads. And that is a leadership style that I really like. I'm direct. I don't know how to be any other way,
Right.
but I also care. Like I care about people. And sometimes my mom raised me and my siblings that way to just care about other people. And sometimes I say this, but I don't really mean it. I'm like, I wish I
Hmm.
could turn that off because I care so much. Sometimes I'm the one who gets burned.
Right, right. So I mean, the takeaway from all this is just real leadership looks like range. It looks like care. It looks like choosing purpose over performance. And before we move over into the next piece, one of the things I'm thinking about, and I want to pick your brain about this. All of these women of color, or women, period, in the leadership role. How much do you think there's pressure to be masculine in these spaces? You know, especially as a CEO, you have to really push what's not normal or natural as a woman to really get things done. What do you think about that?
Oh God. Oh Lord.
How many people you got to bark at every day? You DMX at the job.
So the thing about it is like it is almost being a Black woman in leadership. It is very difficult, and like you said, they probably wore all these women out, right? Because people want you to also be, when you are in leadership, you're only Black or the only of whatever. They want you to be the spokesperson for the whole race or the whole tribe, and you're like, well, I'm just me.
Right.
Like I
Right.
can't, I can't be somebody else. Now let's get practical. I want to walk you through. So we're going to talk about Poise, my leadership model, which is crazy.
Right. Let's get to it.
Let's get practical. So I want to walk you through a leadership blueprint I use in my coaching practice. It's called Poise, and it's all about leading with purpose without losing yourself. So Mark, you want to break it down with Poise?
Yes, let's break it down. So let's start with the first letter in Poise. It's P, which stands for precision. Precision, not precision. I can't talk right now. Precision. Know what you stand for. What are your leadership non-negotiables? That's hugely important to create your swim lanes. O stands for optimization, which means lead based on who your team is, not what your handbook says. That is so huge. Handbook is important for, again, guardrails, but you also got to think outside of the box sometimes to create a dynamic team, or even person, or even influence as far as you're as being a leader. I stands for influence, which means create space for others to rise alongside you. All these are great. I'm sorry. I can go into all of you more. I'm still in this. I'm telling my team this.
Yes, you can point them to my website. Website.
Gotcha. And S stands for strategy, which means be intentional, design systems with empathy and execution. I would also add experience. And then E is endurance, which is protect your peace, because burnout is not a badge of honor. And I just added experience because, I do the operations space, that's it. I would add that to mine to tell my people. Anyway, though, this is good. This is good information.
It is. And it is also one of the reasons that I developed this model was because we struggle with people think that the hustle culture and productivity are aligned, and they're not. That is tiresome. People that lead in this hustle way, the problem always surfaces that they are either not paying attention to their team, they just worried about revenue, blah, 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 right? And like, that's why I created it and developed it and took a long time to do, because I know you can have it all. I know you can have, now I'm not saying you can have it all at the same time, but I know you can have it all. And I know that you're able to lead in a way where we get precise results. We optimize performance. We convey influence. We are strategic leaders, and we have the endurance to go. But that is by using a model that centers wellness. We're centering people. It's a people-centered model. And so here's a quick exercise. Grab your journal or your notes app or whatever, and write down three leadership traits that reflect the real you, not what we were told leaders should be, but who you already are. 3 traits about you.
Wonder what those are. I'm interested to see what people do. Tell us what you're reflecting on, and we can see this information on the comments. But
he said
affirmations of the week. This is great. So you don't have to look like them to lead like, oh, that's powerful. You don't have to look like them to lead like you. That is powerful. I think the world needs to know that, see that, we're dealing with all these crazy leaders out here, but that
You
is
don't have to look
highly
like
important.
them to lead like you. And that is
Not at
it.
all.
That's a good
Not at
one.
all.
That's a good one. That was so your reflection. So like basically, what does leadership look like when you walk in the room? How do you show up? How do you show
Right.
up present? Even if your style is quiet or thoughtful, is it collaborative? Like, how do you show up? And you know, that's a reflection question, and contemplative question. I want people to really dig deep and kind of look at that. Like, what does leadership look like when you walk in the room? You yourself.
Right. And what we want to do with all of this is basically we want to hear your stories. Share your leadership journey using the hashtag leadership looks like this. I'm pretty sure, I hope TikTok likes to respond to this. So I hope they go crazy on this. Instagram, they like it, but they're not saying anything. But we also want to hear what you got to say. YouTube folks, chime in. You might just inspire someone else who is to stop shrinking, like you said earlier. Don't shrink yourself, mirror. Is that the good way to say it? No shrinking, we're mirroring. We're giving empathy.
We're not shrinking ourselves. We match in energy. We match in energy. That's what we do. We match energy. Yes, of course. We are matching energy. And here's obviously we're coming to a close here soon, Mark.
Right.
And what we covered today is debunking the outdated leadership mold. We reimagined a new inclusive model, and we gave you a blueprint to build from poise.
So what we want to take, we want to take this deeper. Download, let's go, because you got all this stuff on your website. It's up and ready to go. Please go to her website and check it out. So if you want to take this deeper, download our authentic leadership reflection guide. What's the website?
It is have-poise.com.
Say it again. One more time.
HAVE-poise.com. And you can find your endurance score on the website. There is an endurance test on there, leadership endurance, and you should take that test. So.
Wow. So what's the outcomes of that? What's your endurance score? I'm curious about this. This just tells you how much. There's wow. So it makes sure you can deal with.
Well, what it is like it's a test, and you have to you take the test, and it's like a little quiz. It's like 10 questions, I think, and then and you add up. Like if you got more A's, you're more this. If you got more B's, yeah. I'm
gonna go take it because I want to see what
I want you to take it. You gotta go take it.
It's like. It's a free tool and it'll help you clarify your leadership voice. That's important for leaders out here. And I think it's important for you to understand. We've already broken it down for you. Empathy is the biggest and strongest tip out here that you must have. And we're not shrinking, we're mirroring. And I would say define what that is. You had guardrails. That's what I call them. I call them guardrails, but define your leadership space and what you are, your non-negotiables. Those are key things that I picked up from what we talked about today.
Yeah. And also go grab Joelle Moray's book. She was on Queens Behind the Scenes this week. It's a beautiful reminder that leading well starts with living well, right? We'll link that in the show notes. We'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, we definitely will. So make sure you go to Queens Behind the Scenes and watch these updates. Please go to her website. You love dashes and underscores. I'm not even saying all that stuff.
I do. It's like Queens ___ behind underscore.
Make sure you follow all of us. Go to Career Transformation Academy if you want to get more tips and tricks on how to be your best self and get a job, your dream job that you want. But until next time, folks, Charise and Mark, we're out. Corporately speaking, where we build workplaces worth staying for. We're out, people. Peace.
3 in the morning, the fans they out. Come on. 4 in the morning, we'll be rolling to my house. 5 in the morning, the lights go out. 6 in the morning.